Alex Schriver, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs at the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, talks to host Doug Simon on PR's Top Pros Talk.
Alex, we all know reputation management has become more important in all sorts of industries, and particularly in pharma. You've been a big proponent of the importance of localization in that. Do you have sort of a top reason that localization is critical to reputation management?
Well, let's look at the macro environment when it comes to corporate reputations and trust. Since 2020, Gallup has recorded significant declines in trust on most of the 16 institutions that it tracks. The medical system and our healthcare system is no exception. Just a third of voters reporting a good deal of trust in our institutions in our field. And so when we take a look at those macro environment, there are really four key things driving the distrust of our industry in particular. The GOP is becoming more of a populist workers' party. Drug pricing has been an easy political point for the Democratic Party, seeking more government control of healthcare. Power is diffuse, right? A single tweet can move legislation, and our opposition is well-funded and well-organized. And so to combat that, we really have to look at the local level to humanize the significant impact of our treatments and cures. And so for us, we say we have to localize and humanize. In my prior life, our agency's tagline was trust is local, communications is personal. And that's really how we get up and address this system every day.
What are some of the best practices to deliver on that?
Well, it's a great question. And I'll tell you two programs here at PhRMA that I'm particularly proud of. One that we've had for many years, which is our Voters for Cures program, that actually goes out and engages real patients at the grassroots level to talk about the importance of these treatments and cures that are created every day by this industry and how policies can affect the ability to continue to innovate and advance new treatments and cures. And so the Voters for Cures program has engaged at the local level tens of thousands of patient advocates interacting with their elected officials and members of Congress to talk about the importance of policies that support innovation and access to these therapies. And then here internally at PhRMA, we've just launched a new internal speaker series that really brings to life the patients, researchers, and caregivers that work every day in this industry to tell the story to the team here at PhRMA to really emphasize the importance of the work that we do and how it impacts real people on a daily basis. And I think that when we talk about localization, it really is about the individual patient that takes that individual treatment that can have a life-changing effect on them, and making sure that we're bringing those stories to life so that we're telling that story collectively and cohesively when we talk about these large macro policy reforms that sometimes are disconnected from the debate happening at the kitchen table every day.
It's interesting you mentioned trust is local. Obviously, with our business getting clients on local television, we surveyed local TV news is actually trusted by an 85 to 15% margin over social media, equally by both Democrats and Republicans. And good luck getting them to agree. Though, of course, you mentioned in your run-up there that there is some level of agreement with the type of populism that's emerging. And you described yourself as a unique hire for pharma. Why is that so? Can you talk about that a bit?
I started my career in politics. I worked on campaigns, spent some time on Capitol Hill, and then for the last 7 years, actually led public affairs at an agency at Targeted Victory, which is part of the Stagwell Group. And so I bring more of a campaign-style political approach to sort of corporate communications and advocacy. And I think those skill sets, whether it's political background, working on campaigns, understanding sort of the speed of politics, agency experience, having spent 7 years in an agency and understanding how to be on the client side and client services side, the technical experience of our industry, both in paid media and earned media, and then of course issue expertise. Advocacy is in the nuance, and you have to really understand these issues and get deep with them to be able to do this job effectively.
Do you think the campaign mentality has made it easier for you to bring in new people, to build a team and sort of get buy-in? Obviously, when someone comes in from the outside, it can always be extra challenging.
I've been very lucky in my career to be able to build teams, both internally and externally. And I think internally, I'm looking for people who want to get up and win the day. right? It's really about having that mentality and really know that folks come into this every day with that excitement and that energy. I think it's important to have that degree of connection when you're interviewing people and to really expand your networks to think through how can we bring people with different mindsets, different experiences, and different backgrounds to build that diversity into a team. And then I apply the same when I'm building a team externally. When we're looking for our consultants and our partners, right? And how can we make sure we have diverse voices with different experiences, different backgrounds that can bring different things to the table? And so, whether I'm looking for more of an agency of record or more of a project base, I think we try to apply that lens when identifying and selecting our partners externally.
How do you go about making sure those diverse voices get to make their say, get to be heard, feel heard, and are actually heard? And sometimes you might not go forward with what they're suggesting. How do you navigate all of those issues? Because that can be key for building trust within an organization.
That's exactly right. And I think it's important to really not just apply the filter or lens of diversity through just one single lane. I think back to my time in agency space, we would look for copywriters that came from all different parts of the country because they're going to bring a different set of expertise and a different set of backgrounds to that. And I think the same is true when you're looking for whether it's folks with Republican or Democrat backgrounds, folks from small agencies or big agencies. And I think when you're building a team, whether internally or externally, really making sure that you're pressure testing, so you're bringing in folks with different backgrounds, with different experiences to give you the more collective sum of a point of view to make sure you have that tension. I think tension can be a good thing to really pressure test to get the best ideas out of your internal and external teams.
Part of your management style we've discussed before is coming up with these sort of motivational phrases that you utilize. Do you mind sharing some of the go-to ones you have with the audience? I think that will definitely close the deal on you winning the day if you can pull that off.
I'm sure I've used some of them throughout this conversation, right? Localize and humanize. How can we show up new and different? I really challenge the team a lot to think new and different about our approach to public affairs and communications. I say a lot, strategy first, tactics second, right? Let's have a strategy, let's have a goal, and then apply all the tools in the toolbox to that so that we're not letting the tail wag the dog, right? As when you're starting with tactics. And then finally, I end every meeting with my team. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms? And I'll say the same to you. And I think it's always a great way to really let the team speak freely on their thoughts.
Sure. And given that you asked me that question, one concern I have that's common in groups is, especially if it's a group meeting, even if you ask that, people are sometimes hesitant to share what they're thinking in that kind of setting. And it's something I say to new people as they get hired. If you've got something you're thinking about that relates to the business, you got to share it, because if you don't, you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the company because you're not giving all that you have to it. Don't know how effective that is, because it takes a certain strength and confidence to be open to sharing something, especially if it might be different than what the loudest voice in the room is expressing. So how do you go about giving them that comfort level to really share what they're thinking?
Our CEO here at PhRMA, Steve Ubel, talks about the 3 Bs: B for solutions, build a bigger tent, and broaden the debate. And I think he, more than anyone, is really good at reminding folks, regardless of their level or their position in the company, that you're at the table for a reason. And it's important to always add value and make sure that you're speaking up, whether it's in that group setting or finding a way to give feedback outside of that. But it's important that everyone around the table knows that they're there for a reason and they have purpose. And it's that we want to hear from them and hear their input and hear their ideas.
Yeah, and it's great that your CEO brings all 3 of those to the table. I know a lot of people sometimes maybe just focus on 2 of them. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Appreciate the time. It's been a great conversation. And I really appreciate the opportunity to really talk about the importance of going local in communications. That's certainly our motto here as we look to win the day at PhRMA.
Yeah, we've definitely got that same motto. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.